Hello, everybody. This is Jaime Morales, your friendly neighborhood EFS. I put together this presentation for a variety of you that I know that have questions about getting that life insurance lead or that life insurance referral over to myself or to the agency owner. I know a lot of you have questions and may not necessarily know or feel comfortable on how exactly to do that. And so, again, that's the reason for this presentation. So without further ado, we'll get right to it. Title of this segment, of course, is Psychology of Selling Life Insurance. Having the mindset necessary to communicate the need and importance of buying life insurance today. Well, um, I think it's really important to understand the psychology or disposition of how you're talking to the customer, because without that, you really don't even know the type of questions to ask, how to ask them, or even why you're asking them for that matter. And I think this is really the foundation of being able to be successful as you're having that conversation. One of the first things that I want to make sure that you understand is that we're not asking you to sell life insurance. We're asking you to lead generate for us. So I don't want you to be overly concerned about the fact that you have to learn this entire skill set of learning how to sell life insurance in its entirety and all the nuances of doing so. We're just asking you to sharpen your skills a little bit on probing a little bit further, asking the right questions in the right way to help lead generate and get those customers over to us. But of course, there are a few things you need to learn and do before you can even lead generate effectively. So again, that's the reason for us having this presentation today. I've talked to many of you about getting the referral over to myself or to the agency owner. And of course, there are several of you that actually say, "Hey, well, I am asking," but of course, you're not having a lot of success, and it's probably pretty obvious that you're either not doing it the right way, you're not being effective, or that there just may be a better way to ask. But part of knowing what to do is also knowing what not to do. And in this particular case, it's simply being very blunt and saying, "Hey, would you be interested in a life insurance quote?" That's not something that a lot of people are going to be interested in doing or is going to appeal to their emotion or their senses to run out and get a life insurance quote. We're just not going to be that effective by asking in this way. And so, especially if you've just had a discussion about your property and casualty and quoted a home or an auto, it feels like you're being upsold, especially at the very end of a conversation of, "Hey, by the way, would you like to would you like for me to give you a life insurance quote?" You're just not going to have a lot of people respond well to you by doing that. And it's also one of the reasons that you have the reluctance of asking, because it even feels awkward when you ask that way. It doesn't feel good. And the last thing a lot of you guys want to do is feel like you're selling and have this cheesy feeling of, "Hey, I'm being upsold." So let's go to the next slide. I think that one of the most effective ways in doing this is positioning yourself as an advisor from the beginning of the conversation. And by the beginning of the conversation, I'm talking about the conversation that you're having with them, even about the property and casualty side. If you're positioning yourself as an advisor, um, of course, you're going to exude a degree of professionalism, and the client really isn't going to feel like you're selling them if you're positioning yourself as an advisor. And one of the most effective ways of doing that is using the correct type of verbiage. As you all are professionals, a lot of you are licensed, only a handful of you are not. But if you're licensed, you are professional. And so you should be using phraseology like, "Hey, based upon the information that you're telling me, my recommendation is that you get these levels of coverage." If you're using that kind of phraseology throughout your conversation, then it'll be a very smooth transition at the very end when you ask the question about their family needs or coverage, which we'll get to in just a moment. It'll be a very smooth transition to make, and it'll be a real easy thing to do to advise them to think about a certain degree of life insurance coverage. So we'll get to that. But during that normal conversation, you want to be asking questions like, "Are you married? And if so, what is his or her name?" You want to write the name down. Do you have children? What are their names? Again, write their names down. Do you have a mortgage? What is the balance? Who is the primary breadwinner? This is a really important question to ask. It may not be really apparent now, and I'm not going to get into it in this particular presentation, but that's a really big question to ask as you're going through the probing process of the conversation with the customer. But the point is to ask in a way that the client never feels like he's being sold. And I know that's where a lot of you guys want to be. So make sure that you position yourself as an advisor in the way that you ask, in the way that you converse with the customer. Life insurance, as opposed to your property and casualty products, where a lot of people that are calling you, the disposition, it's not so much are they going to buy auto or home insurance. A lot of the times it's a matter of who are they going to buy from, because those products a lot of times are mandated, especially the auto insurance side. And so life insurance, on the other hand, is more elective. And so life insurance must be sold. But if you're asking the questions or questioning the customer a certain way, it just won't feel like you're selling them. It'll feel like you're doing the right thing and you're advising them. And so one of the main premises in selling life insurance, in the same way that you sell property casualty insurance, is there must be something to insure, or better said, something to lose. If they don't have a home or a car, there's no reason they're going to be talking to you about property and casualty insurance. Well, life insurance is kind of the same way. If they're not married, and if they're not married, or if they're not married with children, a lot of times they're not going to feel the need to have life insurance. And if in a real true sense, there really is no need for them to have life insurance. I mean, think about it. If you're talking to an individual who's single, a young man, young woman who's single, not married, no kids, very little debt or any liabilities whatsoever, I mean, honestly, are they really going to have some sort of real reason or feel the emotive need to have life insurance to take care of someone or something? No. There just isn't going to be any kind of urgency. So you have to be able to uncover the questions that, with the questions that I posed before. You have to be able to uncover what it is that they want to insure, what they want to take care of. And so you must be able to engage the customer or probe or question them to uncover what it is they have to insure. Probably the hardest part that most of you seem to have in the probing or questioning process is, how do you make that smooth transition from, okay, I've been talking about property and casualty insurance, I feel great about it, I do it like no problem. How do I make that transition over to the life insurance side? Well, number one, I'm going to just throw it out there. It's going to take time for it to get smooth. The first couple times you try it, or the first few dozen times you try it, you're going to fumble a little bit. But with time, you're going to be able to get that conversation really smooth. But for the most part, if you've been positioning yourself as an advisor and asking the right questions at the very beginning, like if they're married, what is their wife's name, children's name, etc., you're going to be able to move into a transition like this. Thanks for letting me quote your home and auto insurance, Mr. Johnson. As I'm reviewing your profile, I'm wondering if your wife Susan and your two boys, Robin and Ryan, will be taken care of if something were to happen to you. Now notice that's a simple question. It's a very smooth, non-threatening, non-evasive type of question. But also notice that I never brought up the words life insurance when I brought this question out. You've earned the right to ask that question because you were probing, you were being professional, you got this information, and of course, when you use a customer's wife's name like Susan and your two boys Ryan and Robert, and you ask them a question like, are they going to be taken care of if something were to happen to you, that truly tugs at the emotive side of their thinking process. It's a very different question than, hey, would you like a life insurance quote, or is your wife Susan and your two boys Robert and Ryan going to be taken care of if something happens to you? If the answer is no, well then that's your perfect segue into, well, we need to maybe think about taking care of them If something were to happen to you, we need to think about a certain amount of life insurance coverage. And one of the first places we can start is maybe thinking about what your current mortgage is and how much you want to save for the children towards college, and how much income replacement you want to provide for your wife or husband, if that's the case, if something were to happen to you. And that's where we segue into a real conversation about providing them real value. So this is just basically a decision tree or flow chart of how that conversation would look like. Of course, you're having your normal PNC dialogue. You make the really smooth transition here. If you're talking to a person that's single, no kids or debt, nothing to protect, of course, no, they're not a good prospect. You wouldn't really take the conversation any further. But if you're talking to someone who's married with kids, a mortgage, business, etc., then you have a good prospect here. You need to start getting the information and hopefully set that appointment. So the psychology in action here is really being in a position to be able to tug at their emotive side, because decisions are made with emotions and supported by logic. That's really important that you understand that. Decisions are made with emotions and supported by logic. And in order to be able to put the customer in this situation, you have to appeal to their emotive side, and this can only be done when you start making the conversation personal by using the wife or the husband's name, the children's name in the conversation. And this is of the utmost importance. So with that, I think you guys probably get the idea about what I mean by the psychology of the conversation. If you want to talk about it a little further, please call me. We'll have a little more in-depth conversation on how to create your gab or your particular responses. So thanks for listening. Let me know if I can help in any way.